Morning, everybody. You're very welcome in this morning. Just to mention that there is an interpreting service available. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, you should see the interpreting icon there, and you can pick whether you want to listen as Gaeilge or in English, as the speakers will be speaking a mix of Gaeilge and Berla. So I'm just going to hand over to Audrey, who's going to do the official welcomes, and then we'll be coming back to me. Or Maggie.
You're all very welcome. Thank you for attending this seminar. Audrey from Deeper.
We are very grateful for the team here, for the Firm, for hosting this webinar during Public Service Transformation Week. The team here in Depender, we are working together with other public service to host other events, and these are showcasing, of course, the transformation in action, and they're all opening their online doors. So I hope you enjoy this event now today. Transformation Week itself is a chance to highlight the breadth of innovation and transformation taking place across Ireland. This year the theme is rooted in better public service strategy, which focuses on harnessing digital technologies and modernising public sector processes and fostering collaboration across those sectors. So as we navigate a rapidly changing world, the need for agile, citizen-centric services has never been more urgent. So this week offers a platform for all of us to exchange ideas, to showcase the best practices, and to build the future of public service delivery, which is essentially what today is all about. At the heart of the public services strategy is a commitment to transforming government services to meet the evolving needs of citizens and our communities. The strategy emphasised the importance of accessibility, of transparency, resilience, also recognising that public services must be responsive to the challenges of this century. Through strategic investments in technology, data-driven decision-making, and cross-agency collaboration, we aim to create a public service ecosystem that is efficient, inclusive and adaptable, and one that truly serves the citizens of Ireland, which of course is all of us. Thank you for
listening. I hope you enjoyed today's event. Thank you very much. Back to you, Sive.
Thank you, Sive. Good start to the... I'll continue. My name is Sive O'Kinchler. I'm working as a Principal Officer in the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltachta, Sport and Media. There are my slides. So I'm going to talk to you this morning about the work that has been done in terms of the Official Languages Act and working towards a bilingual public service. We won't go into too much detail in terms of the background, but some information about the information to give you some background. If you're coming in new to this, Irish is recognised as the first official language in the Constitution of Ireland. The Official Languages Act of 2003 gave a legal basis for that, for people getting to do their business with the state through the Irish language. That was amended in 2021, and with that Act, there's a national plan for Irish language public services. We'll be working towards language standards and also some duties through the regulations and direct duties as well. You see that there's a lot more advertising you see through the medium of Irish. That is a direct result of the Official Languages Act and the 2021 amendment, and there will be more responsibilities coming up under that as well. So I'm not going to go into the space too much. There'll be another seminar later about that, but we talk a little about the national plan for Irish language services. Just to mention at this point, we're kind of under unconstruction phase in the implementation of the Act. There were a lot of small and larger things that need to be looked at in the next couple of years. And toward the target of recruitment of 20% in the public service by 2030, who would be proficient in Irish. We're talking a little more about that later on, but just to mention there'll be quite a lot of things to try in this period ahead, and we're heading towards that target of 2030. Looking at things that we need to try, and for ourselves and the public bodies, that's the main message. We are trying to try various different things for the next while. The advisory committee was set up under the Act on 20th of June 2022, and then there's senior members from public bodies across the sector. Some of those public bodies have to connect with the direct act of let's say the HSE, the Department of Social Protection, and it is representation at, so you have very high level civil servants working on this, and then you have members from the language planning area and one person from areas that are not language planning areas. There's a lot of different functions set up under the committee. The first I would mention there was the preparation of the National Plan for the Irish Language Public Service. The main things that are mentioned, what are the services that are not being provided already that should be provided and should be raised through the language standards, and that there would particular focus on services for the Gaeltachta or Irish language speaking areas. There will be dates to be agreed in reference to that in the future, not just to recognise these services, but to set down public bodies' standards of how they can actually achieve this. Historically, with the language schemes, kind of to and fro about those, agreeing those standards, but it's left up to the public bodies themselves to enforce those schemes. We could maybe do a little bit more with that in some cases, and other cases have achieved quite a lot. So we're trying to have a supportive role for the public bodies, is what we're at, to have a strategy about and to increase the Irish language services. Another function of the committee is to give advice about the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. There's a specific reference to the Common European Framework, the KEFR, that basically lays down international standards in terms of what levels of number, grade and competency level in the Irish language in terms of providing services through the Irish language. It would be easy to say that B2 would be the standard in terms of providing a service, but in the case of our own department, in senior level, we're talking about C1, written and oral, and in other cases, depending on the role that they have, orally possibly B2 in spoken Irish, and that the written aspect is not as important. So it'll be a very active role. The committee has a very active role in this through the language standards. The functions of the committee also had research commissioned about the preparation of UCG, or University College Galway did quite a lot of that, and we talk about that in a minute. And they also had to complete a survey on competence level about the public service. The first part of that was done as part of research, and I'm thanking also to those people who answered the call today, who helped us with those. About 35,000 people participated in that survey in March 2024, and I mentioned at the beginning the target of 20% by 2030. That's also a name of the committee. A little bit of background, where are we at the moment? The census in 2022 gave us quite a lot of information. 1.9 million people said they spoke Irish across the country, and about 72,000 people who speak it daily, and 115,000 people who speak it weekly. There was a new question in the census as well in terms of the level of competency in Irish. So many people, 200,000 people said that they spoke Irish quite well. 600,000 people said, or 32% is precise, and then about a half people said that they weren't so proficient in Irish. Another thing we looked at very much in the census, this graph shows the level at which Irish speakers aged when they're at their ease with the language, and as long as they're in the system, in the educational system, that's when they're quite comfortable with their Irish. So that's mainly where they said they spoke Irish well or very well, and then when they left school, that number fell quite substantially. Get as many people in from school and try and maintain that level of ability on leaving school. In terms of the survey as well, the competency survey, as part of the research for the national plan, there was a lot really positive, more positive than we thought. Nearly 12% almost said that they had Irish would be B2, C2, and 13% said that they had level of B1, and that's, we look at those people who would have a potential to be competent in Irish before long, with some support and education. That is very, very positive, and we're very pleased with that. Looking a little on the competency survey, who used Irish as part of their role, that fell quite substantially. 3% who said that they were already working through Irish, and about 9% said that they were using it now and again. So there's a few things there about the research which shows that there wasn't much record being kept of it. If they moved roles from one thing to another or came into a stream where Irish wasn't recognised, there's quite a lot we can do, in other words, there to collect information. And the other aspect of it is when people come in, put them into the role that it is most suitable to their language skills. So if you have a very high level of Irish, you can go into a role where they would deal with the Irish language quite frequently, if possible. We'll be looking at a lot of that. Another thing that was very interesting really for us, that 50% of the people said they'd be interested in increasing their competency. That was very positive. We're looking at that. About 5% said that they were working to Irish already, and they would be working to Irish and be interested in working to Irish straight away. 23,000 people, 23%, excuse me, said they'd be interested in working with Irish with additional training and support. So that's all very, very positive for the work that we're doing. I'll be trying to look at that in terms of how exactly we can support these people who are interested in increasing their competency. And the last thing to mention is, of course, that the information about it was quite low, about the target of 20%. So we have to work. We intend to go out with an information programme in the new year about the 20% target. Taking all that into consideration, the national plan was put together, the national plan for Irish language public services for the last 2024-2030, that was launched in the last 2 weeks. There are 5 main themes in that. and this module is coming in line with various other greater public services, better public services for renewal strategy in the civil service. We'll be looking at these and strengthening structures, providing services through Irish technological aspects. Ona Drynon will also be talking about this in a little while, and Tomas Anchichon, and also about education and collecting of information. It's a strategic plan over up to 2030. And as we said, 5 major strategic themes based on the research. And we did these slides published on the website of the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media. We're hoping to have 2 by 3 year action plans. A lot of little things to be tried in the next 3 years. We'll be trying to give the space for that to develop in the first action plan, and then moving on to the second action plan, we can say these are the things that worked, these are the things that did not work so well, and then we can broaden out the positive. We're intending of having that first action plan in the next few months. Work is on currently with the view to doing that, and those action plans will be laid out for the strategic measures, the specific measures to achieve the strategic objectives under these themes. The relevant measures, we're talking about an apprenticeship scheme, and that they will be adding to the skills in Irish that they have as they go through the system. That will give us a bit of space to actually accept people at B1 level, that they would learn the skills, and that they would be adding to the skills that they had already in the Irish language. So there's a particular promise there in terms of the public service by 2030. And that could be decided by the end of next year. It will be quite ambitious, but work is in place towards that. Building on what was mentioned already, supporting people who are trying to add to their language skills. There's a network in the public service in the Irish language, which is in place since the middle of the summer. And I'll mention a little bit about the TEG organised courses and One Learning, and TEG will certify them. That has been increased since 2022-23. There's 23% increase of people who are doing those courses, and the feedback we're getting is that people are looking for other supports outside the classroom, social perhaps as well, to practice the language. And there are other people working across the public service who have Irish skills, and it's good to have that they have the opportunity to meet people with Irish. That network is established, and we can get more information about that on the social media and the website. We're also looking at specialised communications at specific levels of the Irish language under the Act as well. A couple of other things we're trying to the language, trying to base on the under 4B of the Act, we're trying to build on that. We used quite a lot of that during the mechanism while we were doing the research. And we're looking at a technical committee, and also to go out with an information campaign on the media in 2025. We're doing this information seminar today, and when the action plan comes out, there will be more aspects to be discussed. We're looking as well at third level courses that are provided, and Irish language modules and so forth through various high level skills through Irish, and to look at that again, to review that if it's parallel to the ideas and the also to finish up, what can you do in the public bodies? You can learn, you can read the plan first. See that you have an official languages officer under section 4B, looking at training and upskilling, removing barriers to Irish language training, and also give to push the Irish language network and other local supportive measures. So looking really at the research, it was mentioned that a lot of people, about 71% of the public bodies were providing Irish language courses, but only 4% participating in those courses. So that could be in different ways, but one of the ways that we could do it is that people don't know that those Irish language courses are available, and we can make some headway there. In terms of recruitment, entry pathways to see what can be done, to be proactive and have regular recruitment. So anyway, we can have an Irish stream, as it were, and look at, especially in the Gaeltacht, Radio na Gaeltachta now are doing advertising. Is there any other way that advertising can be done and to be active in that area and look at the identify public-facing roles? We're going from the 1 or 2 person having Irish, dealing with the public, especially those in the Gaeltacht areas where there is a language community of speakers. We're looking at those roles, helplines, and so forth, that there are people there with Irish to provide those services. When there are schemes being devised to promote bilingualism, and we mentioned as well about technology as well. When you go out now in digital development, if possible, to have a bilingual aspect to that, to nest that into it, that would help greatly. Also, actually, ownership at sectoral or organisational level is very, very important. An emphasis on trying new things and developing structures. So very quickly, that's my presentation. We'll have an information seminar in the future about this, and we'll be in contact with you about that, and we'll talk to you, and you can ask us any questions. The email is there, and you can contact us anytime. Thank you very much. Paddy is going to come in and do a presentation.
Paddy can go to Bowley and
I was talking to myself there. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the invite to be a part of this presentation this morning regarding the Public Service Transformation Week. My name is Paddy O'Leonard, and I work as Communications Manager in the Office of Commissioner Teanga, the Language Commissioner. Looking at the word transformation and what it means, I'm going to maybe try and show the transformation between the Language Act in 2003 and the amendment in 2021, and it might give you an insight into what we're doing. So I might start. So can I move this along?
Commissioner Teanga Tommy Fehiblian Eravod.
So the Language Commissioner's Office were 20 years in existence, and we're here to advise public bodies on their duties. We advise the public of their rights. We have staff on loan from the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sports and Media. Our powers were strengthened by the 2021 Act. We are situated in the wild Atlantic Way, which was very wild last night in the storm, and we're very delighted to be there. Seamus O'Concannon is the third language commissioner who was appointed in December last year. We have 11 people on staff in the office, and we have 4 vacancies to be filled currently as well. So we're growing and very busy at the minute, dealing with the implementation of all the various provisions of the Act. This is a slide that just gives a little description of the work of the office and the domain of the office and what we do. So complaints is one of the major things that we deal with. We get around 650 complaints per year. We do investigations. We have a manager working on that. We have a manager working on monitoring. Awareness, we have 2 people working on this aspect. And regarding awareness, if awareness and communications has grown with the new Act, it's therefore it's going to be the same increase in workload again. 140% was the raise in advice given to public bodies between 2021 and 2023. We have additional powers, we have produced additional reports. There is commenting and monitoring of other pieces of legislation relating to the use or position of the Irish language. So there's a lot of mixing and swapping around between the various pieces of legislation, and that the office keeps a close eye on that. Sometimes the nature of the cases that come in are serious and complex to report, but even so, the office is committed to make sure that the use of Irish language is prominent in the Gaeltacht and in Irish broadcasting. And we try to find out where it is and improve that. So we are mainly, I suppose, in service of the public. That's why I'm here this morning. Regarding providing a better public service, that's the NDP that we have. That's what we all want to achieve. How can we provide better, healthier, more prepared and more instant services for people who speak Irish. And the transformation strategy for the delivery is very important. And it's very important, you see here, that all the pieces fit together and that they all work together in regards equality, responsibility, openness and honesty, so that sometimes what we're trying to do is to recreate the public's faith in the services being available to them. So, for example, if a member of the public wants to renew a passport or get counter services, very often it's during a phone call when there isn't someone available to speak to them on the phone in Irish. That's where the failure happens. So we're trying to create and keep confidence going in our services. Sai was talking earlier about the provisions in her talk there. So we need to appoint another member of staff from senior management to oversee the performance and reporting obligations under the Act. So what do we have to report? What should we report? And we are sharing a lot of information and expertise with them to help them know what they should report at the end of the year, so that the Chief Executive can give a recap in their annual reports.
So
there is a dedicated email address, ATO at the name of the public body .gov.ie. So as we would be ATO at ttgacsm.gov.ie. So that will be much easier to get everything collated in one place. So the standards, and I'm delighted to hear from Sive that they will be brought forward in the first quarter of next year, and really they're badly needed. Despite that, maybe half of public bodies had schemes, a lot of them were full of conditions, and the conditions were restricting the supply of services. The Language Commissioner offices thought that with provision 19A that and we think it'll maybe give public bodies a boost to be able to undertake the various strategies and commitments in the national plan, and that they can fill those gaps that were identified in that plan with sensible services in the places that they're needed. And they will be able to pick through those and maybe not be exempt, but maybe have a better strategy for dealing with the needs. So this is a very sensitive question, of course, but at the same time, I think people need to be wary. We don't really want an essay or a grammar test of the person who gets the 44 bus from Galway City to Spiddal. We want the person who works on at the counter in the post office, or on a day like today when there's people up here going up the poles trying to restore electricity to people. That doesn't matter. We want the people to be able to deal with the public in a normal way and give those services to them through Irish. And as I say, it doesn't need to be an essay. And it gave us all a boost, really, when this Social Protection Department, with 7,000 employees in that department, 300 people put up their hand and said that they would be able to do the work through Irish. Maybe that's only 5% of that department, but it's a good start so that we can build on it. Advertising, Sive mentioned that as well. And everyone might have noticed this already, people who live on the island of Ireland anyway. This is a provision that we think has most impressed on the public. The way that you get your information, whether it's, or how you deal with the media, whether it's social media, the radio, podcasts, or on the television. The advertising is in Irish, and people have really noticed it. And public bodies have to ensure that at least 20% of their advertising is done through Irish. And that's really adding to the effort to normalise Irish in the public sphere. As well as that, it's good for the companies who are making their living through the Irish language. Some of them wouldn't be entitled to much money from the state to keep them going, but now they have new income streams available to them that will, add to their sustainability. And as well, we've added to the amounts that are available at the moment. I don't know if I can show you this now, if you can hear the sound. This is a good example, we think, of an Irish language ad.
Is féidir leat a bhrac go bhfuil tú fógathe sa dúrachas. Tá sé tábhachtach a thuiscint go bhfuil cabhair ar fáildeit. Victimscharter.ie chuirtar eolas ar fáildeit ar théirbhísí aistriúcháin ar na cearta atá agat agus ar an tacaíocht atá ag teastáiliúid. Tá cearta agat, tá tacaíocht agat, tá go agat. Faide cuidse I gart na níospartach. Ar na cur ar fáildeit ag rialtas na hÉireann.
I think that's a very good example of an ad of the creativity. We didn't need actors with Irish because the projection of the words was doing the job as well as the voice acting. So it's one that they had also produced in English. And as I said, there are a lot of new media since Article 10 came into force in October 2022. So this is another one, Ó Gaeilge, out of home Gaeilge. They provide news and things like that. As you can see, the prison service are also doing their advertising in Irish, and a lot of other public bodies. And we like to see that new companies or new bodies are coming on to add to the discourse. And I hear that there will be a new weekly newspaper completely in Irish being published soon, and the first edition will be out on the 1st of November, and I think that's a great addition as well. Another interesting thing that Amora Research did some research on this about advertising in Irish. Gaeltachta provide one learning, by the way. Some of the stats here are very interesting. 54% of them tried to understand a radio announcement in Irish as much as possible. 52% of them tried to understand TV commercials in Irish when they watched them. The marketing through the medium of Irish adds to the value of the brand, and that's what we're trying to tell companies, that it does impress people, and there's a more chance people will buy your product or your services if you use Irish as well. We've used this research, and I'm more than happy to share it with you if you want it, and I'm sure Gaeltachta would be happy for that as well. This is another thing I want to share with you, is an invitation to an occasion, an event we're going to have during the Oifig festival in a couple of weeks. So we will be launching the early results. We will be doing it during a half-day seminar in Killarney, and we're very lucky that Professor Fanula Élan will be giving a keynote speech as well. And we'll be giving an overview of the new guidebook regarding the language acts. So when the 2021 Act is completely functioning, we'll be putting together a guidebook, but we'll give you an overview in Killarney. The national plan was published last week, I think, or maybe the week before. So it's a systematic step-by-step approach, as I've said. So it'll let us know where we are with the plan. And I would recommend to you all to read the plan. It will find out where we are, and then we'll have to look at how do we get to the next stage. Chapter 4.1.1, establishment of service hubs, that might make a big difference using networks that are already established by Údarás and Gaeltachta all over the country, especially in the Gaeltacht areas with the GTech services that might be able to fill a lot of the gaps that are in the services already quicker than have been done before. So recruitment, advice in this office that we're giving to every public body is it doesn't matter what job you're advertising. Advertise the recruitment of the job in both languages, because you never know what standard or what extra skills you're bringing into the organisation. And a lot of these organisations are in competition with each other looking for the same people. So definitely do your recruitment bilingually and bring them in the door first and try and nail them down. Because we're coming from a very low level. If you think between 2018 and 21, that only 16 jobs advertised in PASS required Irish. So it's 0.2%. So I'll hurry on because I'm delaying you. What we want to look at, I suppose, is where the rubber hits the road. We want the course public services to be available to the Irish-speaking community through Irish, online services, counter services, and telephone services. That's where the pinch points are at the moment. And that makes sense, and it also shows that the Department of Public Expenditure they want 90% of public services will be delivered online by 2030. There are huge gaps in the services provided through Irish. That's where our office is focusing at the moment. The less complaints we get, the better the legislation is working. That's one way to look at it. So provisions that are still to be implemented, and they might come in automatically, I suppose, before the end of the year because the clock is counting down. Since the President signed the legislation in 2021. So provision 9A, ICT systems, so accurate record of name, title, address, so where there's a fada in a name that it's accurately recorded. That'll be coming in on stream. 9B, so official forms, whether they be soft or hard copies, that they be available from they'll be available bilingually, and then local authorities and the Department of Social Protection logos as well, 9C, so that the public bodies should rebrand to have Irish or Irish and English. So what we saw an example of that was Irish Water changed to Uisce Éireann. That's how they're known now. And we're returning to how things were. If you think about it, if you think of Éireann Nor Éireann, the rail body was always known as that in Irish. 9E, a very important one, third-party procurement. So a body contracted by a public body has to act as if they are a public body themselves. So they have to uphold sections 9, 1, 2, 3 and 19A from the new act as well. That's all I have to say. I'm very grateful that you listened to me and put up with me, and that's how you can get me. If you have any questions, the contact information is there. I'll stay online if there's any questions. Thank you.
That was very, very interesting.
Nish, as we're into Reens Omlanuer, quite
You did some recaps on some of the points that I made earlier on.
So
Next speaker is Owen O'Drynon, who's working in the department with us as well, and he'll be talking about technology. Thank you.
Hello,
hello everybody. This morning, it's a nice morning, and thank you to my colleagues for organising this event and inviting me to speak. My name is Owen O'Drynon. I'm a Principal Officer in the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltachta, Sport and Media, and I come from the digital area as part of the work in the department. I'm hoping to give a little bit of an insight into the one or two of the aspects of the work that we're doing. And in this area, because we don't have too much time, I'll try and focus on one or two aspects. One is a project called eStore. Some of you may be aware of it already. There may be some people who don't know of it, and maybe we could draw you into the work that we're doing and get some help as well. eStore is organised by the Adapt Centre in... We can't see your slides. We still have Paddy slides, so maybe we could have a look at your slides.
Yeah.
Now we have it. Can you see them?
So Laura mentioned for eStore.
We're talking about eStore, which comes from the Adapt Research Centre. It's not in presenter mode yet, I'm sorry. Just do a little bit of... Would that be correct? That's it, that's it. I'm not really that proficient on Zoom. So now, at the map here, you can see it's a research centre for SFI. Various different universities in the state participating in this. They're laid out there, and it's coordinated by TCD and DCU, Dublin City University and Trinity College Dublin. And there's about 300 researchers altogether involved in this project. Now, eStore is a national project enabling those working in public administration to collect and share language data online, on a dedicated line, online. And at the end then, this information, or this data, is sent to the EU for machine translation training. And I think that's really, really relevant at the moment, especially with the work of the public service. And we're operating under the Adapt Centre. You could say validating and processing Irish language data is what we're doing in both languages, and the work of the stream of work goes from, which is coordinated by DCU in eStore, and then the language data is collected from public bodies, and then that is transmitted to the European Commission. And the end results, there's e-translation, which is a machine translation process. There's quite a lot of official languages come under that in the European Union, and amongst them Irish. These are some of the organisations that contribute to eStore. You can see some of them there, for example, the National Archives, the Department of Justice, Commissioner Teanga. Formats that are needed or looked for or sought out. You can send regular Word, Excel, PDF. The best is TMX, which is a bilingual code. When you know the translation software, Trados is one of them. You can input bilingually, and they're called TMX files. That's the ideal format. eStore itself, you can see here the layout, the home page here on the screen. In English or in Irish, this is the Irish language version. The English language version is also available. There's quite a lot of information there. You can see there are 297 data areas and 67 publishers or organizations assisting the process. We're hoping to have a lot more and more public bodies involved. We had a seminar about a month ago looking for more organizations to come, give them encouragement to help to go to eStore directly or to myself or my colleagues in the department. In terms of the benefits to participate in eStore, well, one would be to improve translation services in Ireland and in Europe. So those TMX bilingual files will be free, will be available from eStore. That would reduce translation costs with e-translation, because they can use e-translation and also make Irish more digitally accessible. In the digital age and more relevant in the digital area. Also, with the guidelines about there would be sets of valuable data sets for reuse through the Open Data Directive. And that bit by bit there would be a development of language data, that there would be a repository strengthening from year to year as organisations input. eStore is freely available to state bodies, SMEs, freelance translators, many people who are working in the public service or assisting the public service. They're entitled to register with e-translation, and there are 32 languages available there, not just the 24 official languages of the European Union. Chinese, Japanese, Ukrainian and other languages in that system. It's an own account secure platform, and you can plug in for WordPress if you're dealing with our CAT software, etc. And it is also available free of charge because it is for the community, for the public. That's basically the e-translation homepage. That's up. The translation is available in other official languages as well. That's the standard page, the opening page. And you can go poking around there and see how you can get to benefit from it. If you register with e-translation and if you start using it, you will come to a page such as this. On the screen, you'll have an Excel or a PowerPoint or whatever file you have. You can input it. If you only have a little bit of a data, a little bit of text, you can use that as well. Or a full file. You can choose the languages, for example, English, and I have translated to Irish, and the general text as well. And they will actually provide the translation above the text. You can detail the type of link. If you have a Word file and you're trying to get it in the target language, you just you can send technical TMX files as well for translation purposes, software in that format as well. So I think it's very useful for anybody dealing with bilingual, with both official languages, or if they have other languages as well, and preparing documents in those languages on e-translation available as well. Another project we're talking about is, just to wrap up, is the Technological Alliance, Gaeltachta and Cyngor Caerdydd, which is the Alliance for Language Technologies. This is an organization, an international organization, set up this year. Structures are still being put in place. These are the countries that are members of it from the European Union. There's 17 members from the European Union. They're the full members, and then there's 17 altogether. And there are various other countries as well that are observers in the process. And they might be coming in the future. We started on this at the beginning. We had 11 countries of the European member states, and now we have 17, bit by bit, from that time onwards. The main objectives of the organization really are cultural and linguistic diversity in Europe to be preserved, and that have little Irish would be in the category of one that has not many, to promote technological excellence and leadership, and also tackle challenges relating to large language models, LLMs, and developing that bit by bit. To simplify it entirely, the concept you could think, ChatGPT and other things that have come on stream. This is the European approach, to have a variety, to a platform for the European community. It'll take a while to be completed and also to see the result of this work. But we're working on it for a while with help from our colleagues in Údarás and Gaeltachta, and we're very, very grateful for that. We also have a website, which is coming soon. If you're interested, you can go to the www.altedic.eu. I think I've spent my time. I'll leave it at that. Happy to answer questions at some point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Owen. That was very interesting. So we have Thomas O'Sheahan now from Údarás and Gaeltachta. He's going to speak about some of the other technology developments that Owen mentioned regarding AI and things like that. So Owen, you might need to stop sharing there so Thomas can throw his slides up.
Lish, sorry, but you should have talked to us, quick.
Sive, can you see that?
Okay, on the wall.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with you, and even though I don't know if we had intended or not, but I see the presentations are all coming one after the other, telling a story. I'll be referring to things that Sive, Paddy and Owen mentioned and trying to add to it. So first of all, as you see there, if I can move it along here. So looking at the policy context, so what we're looking at here, not just from the Údarás point of view, but as you see, we have the digital plan for Irish, things regarding creativity, and Edic, as Owen mentioned there. So the recruitment aim, our target is 20%. That comes into our work as well. So again, some of these things have been mentioned already, but I'll just say, outside of the 1.9 million people that Sive mentioned, the 100,000 or 65,000 daily speakers. So 100,000 is the Gaeltacht population, 65,000 Irish speakers. So this work and other work mentioned here today will be focused on those people, and we should also keep in mind as well, while it's not completely accurate, but it'll give you an idea, there's 1.4 million learners on Duolingo, so that should be in the back of your head as well. Just to recap the work of Údarás na Gaeltachta, but in case there's anyone who doesn't understand what we do, we have three aspects in our work. So we have enterprise and employment on one side. So we have 9,500 people in our client companies employed. On the other side, we have regional development, which is very, very important and is intertwined with employment. And in the middle, and the main thing, is the Irish language as a living language. And on the ground, I suppose that means that we're always trying to add to the number of speakers and the development of the Gaeltacht altogether. So you might ask the question, how does this pertain to Údarás na Gaeltachta? So I see three ways regarding the work we do. So as people have spoke about earlier this morning, public services, so trying to improve them. We see opportunities regarding education out here, language acquisition, things like that, teaching the language. And that's some of that will come from what we're doing. And another very important thing is enabling or empowering the youth, so and upskilling them. So making sure they have access to things through Irish like they do in English. For example, I suppose a reason that we think Údarás should be mentioned here, if you look at the growth and development of the audiovisual sector, especially with TG4, and you look at the movie on Colleen Kuhn, The Quiet Girl, as an aim, that started in 1990 when TG4 was being planned. So Údarás was enabling people who were to be employed in that industry. So we saw a new era happening. So if we're talking about the AI of the Irish language, it's important that we're enabling people so that they can take ownership of the new technologies and use them. So we see that TG4 did have an impact on language acquisition and a broader impact positively on language acquisition and learning. That it wasn't about one particular area, it was all over the Gaeltacht, and it definitely helped culture, and it changed people's opinions about the culture. And I think that can be seen in the census results that I mentioned and that Sive mentioned earlier. And I think it's a good model as we think about the AI in the same context. So, talking about technology and language and AI, I suppose we should look internationally, and this shows, I suppose, that Irish isn't left behind and that it's as important as other languages. This industry and this technology is completely focused on the English language. Any of you who have any knowledge of AI know that what it does is it looks at a pattern, and if the same pattern is in every sentence 100 times, 1,000 times, or 1,000,000 times, that the tool takes it that's what it's going to be for the next 100 sentences. So it's using English patterns, and more so the American English. So it's very important that we take that into consideration, that there are other stories to tell and we have a role in telling those stories. So as an example, as a precedent, we're working with the government and with companies in Iceland. So they're working with OpenAI to develop new tools. There's about 300,000 Icelandic speakers. So they want to ensure that the Icelandic people have these tools available to them. So if you see Midend, it's an Icelandic company. They're very involved in this work. I'm mentioning them, and I'll compare in a minute to another party. They brought all the work, the archive, they shared it openly with OpenAI to do this work. Now, that's a particular way of doing it. There are advantages and, of course, disadvantages to that. So that means that the value of all that work has been given out and you can't really get it back in a way. So to look at that in a different way, if you look at the New Zealand as the Maori people, they decided not to share it. What they did was they cooperated with NVIDIA, and as I said, the patterns of AI, but they didn't release the original material. So this is an important example for us because we're looking at something similar. We have extra restrictions and extra things to look after because we're part of the European Union, of course, but we should protect the original material and not give away things that are valuable. That we're not giving away ancient writings and ancient things, that we're not giving them away without thinking about the impact that's going to happen. So I suppose that's a context, all that bit is a context up till now, and I'll talk about what Owen mentioned there. We're talking about AI for the Irish language. What does it mean? What kind of project is it, and what are we looking to achieve for the next year? So an aim is speech synthesis in whichever dialect you want by the fourth quarter in 2026. So that's our aim. So we've started a couple of steps. We did this work during the summer with a company called EY. They were our consultants. So we said, what can we do at the moment and where are we going? I won't get into it too much, but overall, it says there's a lot. The tools are available, the AI tools are available in regards to text. As Owen said, ChatGPT, Claude is another one we use here a lot. The topic is very useful for Irish. So these tools are developed already. So I suppose we're at the start of this new era. So what we want to get to, if you had your phone in your hand like this, that you could talk to your phone in whichever dialect and it would answer you in Irish. Now, the biggest aspect about this is that there's a creative or a generative, as they call it, that it can generate answers. So it can refer to various points as a source. So from now to the end of 2026, we're going to focus on that ability and getting it for the Irish language, and we hope that it will be one of the first minority languages in Europe that can work like that. And we can share that information internationally. Specifically, as you can see, at the end of the year here, we want to go to the market and we want to develop this tool by the end of 26. So we're asking the market, asking companies who are working in this field, what's out there, what's available, what's done. By the end of the year, we'll have arrange meetings, we'll get feedback from those companies to find out what gaps we need to fill. So by the end of this year and into the start of next year, we'll be able to put out a tender. And we're working with our departments with our colleagues in the Department of the Gaeltachta develop this, and once we have it developed, it'll be able to work at a state level, so that not every state company or state department will have to go and make their own one. So the tool we develop will be available to all state departments and bodies. So there are 3 specific things we'll do. So starting at the bottom, we'll look about data mapping. Owen mentioned some of the resources that are available at the moment. We'll be doing technical work on those to see what's in them and are there restrictions, will they be useful to us? We'll be setting up benchmarks. So, as I said, there's ChatGPT, there's Claude, Anthropic, there's Llama from Meta. The big technological companies are developing these tools so we can compare them. So we'll say this one is better for Irish or this one is improving, and we can do that on a continuous basis. So we hope to have that done towards the end of the year as well. And the next one, I suppose, for today's conversation, this is the most important one. So the project pipeline. So we'll be talking to you as colleagues in the public service. We'll be asking you, can we help you? Do you have a challenge that you see AI can help with? Is there a specific thing that you're stuck with? Paddy gave a great comprehensive description of that. That we can help with some of that work using this tool when it's developed, and even in between as well. So to that end, we're looking at this cycle. So as I said, some AI tools are available already at certain levels, and they can do a certain amount, but they can do a lot that wasn't doable a year ago. So we're also looking at providing courses to upskill the public. We'll be focusing on people who have a technical background who could learn Irish, or people who have Irish, that they could learn how to use some of these tools. People would be saying then, well, I don't have a doctorate in anything in new technologies, but if you think of it this way, a lot of us have been using Word and Excel and all these things for years. Some people can use every single aspect of that software. Some people who can just open them and use the basics. And it's the same for these new AI tools. So what we mean here is that it'll be able to be used at a lot of different levels. So we don't want anybody to be afraid of it or to be worried by it. We want them to be usable and user-friendly, and we want to enable people and upskill them in regards to Irish language and the technological side. As I mentioned earlier, if we can do that and get a lot of people using it, and the more it's used, the more we'll be learning about it and what it can do. We'll be able to share that capacity internationally, which will create opportunities for our client companies as in Údarás. We don't want some of our client companies who are working in the area of translation at the moment, for example, we don't want them to suffer or to be in trouble when it comes out. We're doing this in a self-funded way. So we want all the other state departments and agencies or authorities or whoever will pay a fee to use these services, and we'll provide the service like that, so it'll be self-funded and it will go around again. And because it's self-funded, it will be able to develop new services and tools as time goes on. So we're not saying that we're doing this as a once-off and we'll come back in 5 years to say that it needs to be updated. We hope to see it as a continuous thing. So how will this work when it's in place? So we're hoping towards the beginning of next year, as I said there, servicing the public service. Number one, we will have an advisory service available in the first quarter. So any of you who come to us, we'll be able to provide advice for you and say you could use this, you could use that. Number two, we will work with the Gaeltachta department, with the OGCIO and with Depender to look at the technology, and OGCIO, for example, have a lot of expertise on the technical side. To ensure that it's being used properly. And then in step 3, that we're looking at quality control after that. So that's, for example, if it's being used by the public, is it of an appropriate standard? Is it serving the public the right way? And we can work with Údarás and the other parties to ensure that the quality stays at the highest level. That will ensure that the public is happy with the standard, that the language commissioner is happy with the standard, and it will also put a lot of state departments and local authorities at ease that they are getting something that is doable, that is usable, and that won't create problems if it's being provided to the public. So that quality control is very important. So that's it. Just a recap of what we're doing at the moment. We hope that we will hear from you. There's more information on what we're doing available on that website there, udarás.ie/AI, or if you email us at olas@udarás.ie, or as Saif said, if any question comes up, we'll be more than happy to talk about it if we can. So Saif, thank you very much, and I'll leave it there. I'll be available if there are any questions after. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomas. That was very, very interesting. Time is running from us. We were a bit ambitious about the numbers of speakers, but I think that was very worthy, really. and the piece that will be made by a colleague of ours, Fionn, in Cardiff, about the experience they have in Wales about when implementing Welsh language standards in a local authority. And when we'll be looking at that in the new year, there'll be a consultation process officially. We'll just welcome Fionn to give a little information about the experience they have in Wales. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Pnawn da, Feisgyrma. Good afternoon. My name is Fionn Griffith. I'm the head of Bilingual Cardiff in Cardiff Council. Firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for the invite to share some of our learnings from Wales with you. As I understand, you're about to venture into the world of language standards yourselves. I think the most important point I can make today is that overall, the introduction, here comes my slides now, sorry. The most important point I can make today is that overall, the introduction and implementation of the Welsh language standards has been an overwhelmingly positive experience in Cardiff. And I think part of that is down to our preparation in advance of the introduction of the standards, our desire to continuously improve our public services, and our willingness to adopt new working practices. So I've worked for Cardiff Council for over 20 years now for my sins. I started in 2004 as Cardiff Council's first ever Welsh language officer, and my team consisted of me and one translator. Together, we were the translation unit, because even though I personally didn't have an English lesson till I was 8, the truth is that a lot of people saw the Welsh language as something to translate into rather than something to live in. So it was hard, actually, to find Welsh speakers in Cardiff Council in 2004. We were pretty special, a rare breed, some might say. But as time went on, obviously things improved. We, at that time, were implementing our Welsh language scheme. Translating everything and dealing with complaints took up the vast majority of my time. And within a few years, we had a few more translators. And as I was a policy officer, we became the Welsh language unit. So the Welsh language unit is a bit better, I suppose, but we still had this kind of sense of othering. You know, people would still see us a little bit different. And there was a little bit of, you know, that Welsh language lot telling us what to do again. So after the Welsh language measure was approved by the Welsh Assembly in 2011, different to Irish, this gave Welsh the official status for the first time in law. And we started to prepare for the incoming Welsh language standards. And in 2014, we were branded as Bilingual Cardiff. So this innovative new approach was about bringing down the barriers between the Welsh and English languages, promoting bilingualism as something completely natural, and being equally proud of both official languages here in Cardiff. It also had the effect of raising the status of the Welsh language, and there was a sense of acceptance and togetherness that perhaps was a little bit lacking before. So let's start in 2014. This is the beginning of Bilingual Cardiff, the rebranded translation unit, and 2 years before the introduction of the Welsh language standards, which in Wales happened in 2016. So this is Wales in 2014, showing the percentage of Welsh speakers across the country. So the darker the blue, the higher the percentage of Welsh speakers. And as you can see, up to 80 to 100% speak Welsh in some areas of North Wales to this day. So the highest percentage of Welsh speakers is along the West Walian coast. And this area is what we call the Welsh-speaking heartlands. It's also the area that I come from, and also the area closest to Ireland. And we like to say that the Irish are the Welsh that could swim. So Cardiff, as you can see, is in the southeast of Wales, where the Welsh language was unfortunately largely lost due to the industrialisation of South Wales valleys. And this is where over half the population of Wales lives today. So even though we've got a high percentages of Welsh speakers in the west and the north of Wales, the percentage of Welsh speakers in Wales is 19% overall, due to this density of population in the majority English-speaking southeast. So 19% of the population in Wales speaks Welsh in 2014, whilst around 11% of Cardiff citizens speak Welsh. However, look at the numbers of Welsh speakers in the council at that time. At 1.4%, we're hardly representative of the community that we serve. Despite huge strides in the right direction, for example, making lessons free and giving time back to anyone who wanted to learn Welsh, etc., it was hard to attract new staff and shift the perception that local government are anglicised institutions. So in 2016, Cardiff Council had a total of 171 new Welsh language standards imposed on us, the vast majority of which we needed to fully comply with within 1 to 2 years. And these were standards in relation to service delivery, policy making, operational standards, promotion, and record keeping standards. They pretty much covered everything the previous Welsh language scheme did and more besides. And just one of those standards, one of the promotional ones, which is standard 145, asked us to prepare a 5-year strategy to promote and facilitate the use of Welsh in our area and include a target to increase the number and percentage of Welsh speakers over the next 5-year period, then review and repeat. And this was a completely new requirement for local authorities in Wales at the time. So in order to set the target, we worked out how many Welsh speakers Cardiff would need to produce in order for us to play our part in the Welsh Government's vision of 1 million Welsh speakers by 2050, as outlined in the National Strategy Cymraeg 2050. So in 2017, 1 year after we came under the standards, we published our very first 5-year promotion strategy, the Bilingual Cardiff strategy, with a clear vision. You can see it here, to develop a truly bilingual Cardiff, a Cardiff where our citizens can live, work and play, as well as access services and support in Welsh or English equally. A capital city where bilingualism is promoted as something completely natural and where the Welsh language is protected and nurtured for future generations to use and enjoy. So this is a strategy for the city as a whole, not for one organisation. And so delivering the strategy relies on partnership working between public sector organisations, the private and education sectors, but most importantly of all, I think, the people of Cardiff. And the platform for doing this was already in place as the Bilingual Cardiff Conference, convened by the Council in 2014, brought together all of these partners from all across the city. And actually that was the beginning of the Bilingual Cardiff Partners Forum, which brings together over 40 organisations across Cardiff with a shared ambition. And our shared ambition is, quite simply, to increase the number and percentage of Welsh speakers in Cardiff, as well as the daily use of the Welsh language. So here are some of the actions implemented under the Services and Workplaces section, including the commitment to create a new in-house dedicated Welsh language tutor post in order to increase the number and percentage of Welsh speakers in the workforce. Actually, James, who was our first Welsh language tutor, is on the call today. So he'll be able to answer any questions that you may have at the end. But in order to facilitate this and to ensure that the Council better represented the community we serve, the Council's internal use of Welsh policy, Bilingual Cardiff, Bilingual Council, was approved by Cabinet in 2017 with a view to change perceptions. So our vision was to become a bilingual organisation, an organisation that would value and support the use of Welsh amongst its staff, projecting a bilingual ethos where both languages are used, and where staff feel supported to use their Welsh language skills. So through our bilingual Cardiff strategy, we were on a journey to becoming a truly bilingual capital city. And as an organisation, we wanted to lead by example and encourage the use of Welsh internally and to increase opportunities to see, hear and use the language when conducting our business. So on to the next slide. With the Bilingual Cardiff Bilingual Council policy now in operation and the new in-house Welsh language tutor appointed, we set about increasing the number and percentage of Welsh learners in the workforce with training to all reception staff, a focus on intensive 120-hour courses. We made level 1 Welsh mandatory for all staff, and a wide variety of courses for all learners were made available, both in person and online. All courses were free and all managers were required to support any staff who wanted to learn or improve their Welsh to do so. So the appointment of an in-house tutor, as demonstrated by this slide, can be viewed as a pivotal moment in developing the use of Welsh within the Council's workspaces and delivery of Welsh language services. Appointing a tutor in-house made it easier for our staff to access Welsh language courses and allowed them to be tailored in terms of content and presentation to meet the requirements of all Council staff. So as you can see from the data in this slide, the take-up of courses has increased significantly. The number of staff completing Welsh language courses in 23-24 represents almost a quarter of the Council's entire workforce. And since its introduction in 2021, the Level 1 module has been completed by almost 3,500 staff members. So the number of staff reporting Welsh language skills has increased every single year since the adoption of the Welsh language standards and the appointment of the in-house Welsh language tutor. So these results, I think, are pretty remarkable and demonstrate the difference individual actions can make, such as appointing an in-house tutor. I think everyone should do that, and how that can change and make an organisation's language and culture. So the Welsh Language Measure 2011 states that the Welsh language should not be treated any less favourably than the English language in Wales. And the Bilingual Cardiff strategy ensured parity between both languages. And as the Welsh language became more a part of the social fabric of the city, so did the support for Welsh culture and arts. So Tafwyl, our very own Welsh language and culture festival here in Cardiff, started in a pub car park in 2006. It was organised by NDP Caerdydd, the city's Welsh language initiative. And the first festival, pictured here, attracted around 1,000 people, and with support from the council, Tafwyl then grew to be one of the biggest Welsh language festivals in Wales within 10 years. So this is Tafwyl now. We supported Tafwyl to move to the impressive surroundings of Cardiff Castle in 2014, and 2 years its continued success meant that it outgrew even the castle grounds. And again, with the council support, we moved it to one of our main parks, Bute Park, with the castle still there as a magnificent backdrop, but now it's got room to grow even bigger. This year, there was 40,000 people in Tafwyl enjoying 3 stages of music, comedy, arts, school performances by every single Welsh school in Cardiff. And it was a great celebration of all things Welsh and represents, more than anything else perhaps, the growth of the Welsh language and a change in attitudes towards the language in Cardiff over the past 10 to 20 years. So In 2014, with the Welsh Language Act and the Welsh Language Scheme, Cardiff already looked bilingual. So road signs and pretty much everything the council did was already bilingual in Welsh and English. Well, English and Welsh, actually. English used to come first. But with the Welsh language standards came the opportunity to build on this and encourage more visible use of the Welsh language in the city's fabric. So we looked to increase the status of the language in the city and adopted new and innovative ways of working, which would encourage private businesses to increase their use of Welsh. So through measures such as the shop fronts, design and signage, supplementary planning guidance, and our new street naming policy. So with the street naming policy that was approved by Cabinet in 2019, as we saw a golden opportunity to increase the status of the Welsh language. Basically, one of our largest new housing developments in Cardiff was about to be built, with 7,000 new homes, 4 new primary schools and 1 new secondary school to be built over a period of 15 to 20 years. And as a result of the street naming policy, all streets in the pictured here, Plas Dŵr development, will have Welsh-only names rooted in the history of the local area. And all new streets built actually throughout the city until parity is reached with the English-only streets. So every new street in the city has got a Welsh name and will continue having a Welsh name until parity is reached, and potentially after that. The ripple effect of this policy is that we're now seeing more buildings and private homes adopting Welsh names voluntarily. In the next picture, there's a shot of our parking app in partnership with My Permit. So we introduced this, making it easier than ever for people to choose Welsh. As the parking machines are all in Welsh, you have to opt out for English. So choose Welsh first, opt out for English, making it easier for people to automatically choose Welsh. And then in 2022, our 10-year Welsh in Education strategic plan was approved, including a commitment for at least 50% of all new schools in the greenfield sites to become Welsh language schools. So the first of these is pictured here, Ysgol Groes Wen. It opened in September 2022 with 1 Welsh medium immersion class and 1 dual language class, where up to 50% of the teaching is in Welsh. So this, I've got to say, is a completely new model for Cardiff. It's based on Basque School's model. And the whole ethos of the school is still Welsh, and it could potentially, if it works, could be a new model for English medium schools rather than Welsh schools, with a view to moving English medium schools along the continuum to become more increasingly Welsh over time. So our last initiative is the 10-year local development plan, which, if approved by Cabinet in December, will have a Welsh language policy for the first time and an independent Welsh language impact assessment commissioned with specific guidance to follow, which will look to introduce specific measures that strengthen the Welsh in city communities hosting new developments. And then the last picture there is one of our painted signs on the road, just to demonstrate that even when translating, you don't have to stick to the English. So as long as the meaning is the same, it's better to use intrinsically Welsh sayings and syntax. So in this case, the English says dead slow, and the Welsh says fel malwen, which means like a snail. So it means the same. You go dead slow, like a snail, but it's in Welsh. So on to Welsh medium education. Here's some key statistics for you. It's the foundation of the language growth in Cardiff. It places the language within families and creates the next generation of Welsh speakers. And its growth over the last 10 years demonstrates that Welsh medium education is not confined to children from families who already speak Welsh. And actually, in fact, 70% of all children attending our Welsh medium schools in Cardiff come from non-Welsh speaking backgrounds. So these English-speaking parents are putting a lot of faith in our Welsh medium sector to produce their bilingual children of the future. This acts to make sure that the Welsh language is a central part of the city's identity. And the establishment of Ysgol Gynradd Hamadryad in Grangetown, where I live, it's one of the city's most diverse wards, shows this commitment in action and reinforces that the message that Welsh medium education is inclusive and that the Welsh language belongs to us all. So part of our commitment to the Welsh Government's vision of 1 million Welsh speakers in our education plan is that a quarter of all 3-year-olds will be receiving their education in Welsh by 2032. So this means that we need to work with every community in Cardiff to ensure that everyone has the access they need to Welsh medium education. And I think this next slide speaks for itself. So all the hard work is paying off. And in 23-24, the council's workforce had a higher percentage of Welsh speakers than the population of the city it serves for the first time. As one of the main employers in the city, it's our duty to lead by example, and I'm incredibly proud to live in Cardiff, a capital city that I can now honestly say reflects the whole of Wales. And just to finish, here are some Irish friends, or Gwyddelod in Welsh, enjoying Tafwyl Festival with us this year. These are from Dublin City Council, which is where all this began and why I'm here speaking to you today. And so finally, just to finish, hot off the press, I can confirm that Tafwyl this year will be held on the 14th and 15th of June, and you're all invited. So diolch yn fawr, goref magwt, thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that very interesting through that, and it's great to see the work that's being done over there, and hopefully a lot of the stuff we might be able to copy here. So it's great to have these types of discussions and to show what can be done, I suppose, with various measures are put in place. So apologies everyone, we've gone a bit over time, but I think most of the speakers have stayed on, if not all of them. So
if anyone has any questions, you can put them into the chat function.
Be more than welcome. I know there was one came in and
if there are any other questions, we'll give you a second there.
No. And with our job is
we
there.
Did a great job, obviously.
No questions. Everyone's clear on what's happening and what's going to happen. Okay, on the one to finish. I'm not going to RT. Well, he is the Margan Gaelgish and Candidates obeyed their poddy modula RT.
There's one for you, Poddy, about RT.
And they're all photographed
with the advertising.
No,
RT 1 and 2 aren't considered Irish language channels because you have to have 50% in Irish. So that's how you measure it in the legislation, the editorial context. So no, they don't qualify as Irish language stations. I don't see any other questions. We shared all the contact details there as we were going through our presentation, and we will publish the presentations on the department's website, so we'll let you know about that when it happens, hopefully this week. Thank you very much to all the speakers again. Údarás from Brian from my own, Sean from Údarás and Fion from Cardiff Council. Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Slán gachana.